This is Morning Motivation for Educators on the Bee Podcast Network. Learn about all the shows at beepodcastnetwork.com. You'll hear from a variety of formal and informal educators who help put this podcast together. If you'd like to contribute your voice to the show, please go to morningmotivationedu.com to apply. I am Karen Dudek-Brannan. I was a school SLP for 14 years where I specialized in language literacy and executive functioning and also held various teaching, leadership, and research roles. Now, I am the host of the De facto Leaders podcast on the Bee Podcast Network, where I help school therapists, teachers, and administrators be leaders on their school teams, no matter their job title. Now, in a past episode titled Don't Hire a Mindset Coach, I talked about how sometimes strategies that coaches use when they immediately jump to telling people that you have a mindset issue, sometimes that actually makes people more defensive, especially if the mindset that they're trying to get the person to adopt is just too far from where they're at or too far from their current beliefs. But something that I wanted to clarify here is just the idea of discomfort versus defensiveness. Because if you have a good coach, they actually should be encouraging you to do things that are going to make you feel uncomfortable. So there is a difference between feeling totally defensive and walled off versus having some clarity around what you should do, but still feeling some anxiety or discomfort. So if you have the first thing where you have no idea what you should do next, you feel totally confused, you don't feel heard, then obviously that is probably a sign that whatever strategy they were using isn't right for you. But if you have clarity and maybe you feel a little bit excited or a little bit nervous and possibly a little bit overwhelmed, but you at least know what you should do next, then that's actually a good sign, because a good coach is going to encourage you to do things that you may not be excited about. Maybe you have a little resistance to them. That's why you've gone to a coach in the first place. So having a sense of discomfort is okay and normal and part of the process. I'll give you a couple examples from my own experience as a person being coached to share what I mean. So in example number one, I was working with a coach who was helping me to put together some consulting packages and figure out what direction I wanted to go for my business. And after the sessions, as much as I really enjoyed talking to this person and appreciated him as a person, I would go into the session thinking, okay, I have these steps and these things that I want to get accomplished, and I would have a clear agenda in my head. And the conversation would go so off topic, and he was not able to keep the conversation reined in. And his strategy was, I'm just going to give you as many ideas as possible, and I'm going to throw tons of stuff at you. And I would leave those sessions so dysregulated and so confused and overwhelmed because he would just fire all of these ideas at me at a time. It was the exact opposite of what I needed. And I would often leave feeling even more frustrated. So if he were to make a suggestion of something and maybe I was distorting it, he wouldn't even get a chance to address any of my objections and work through that because he was just dumping so much at me at once. So when I would get to particular suggestions, I would just kind of dismiss them, even if maybe they were good options. Now contrast that with someone I'm working with this past year who is helping me with networking and job searching. Her name is Kristen Zavo, and she is the author of Job Joy. And in the support that she offers, there is a very clear roadmap that she follows. There is a combination of coaching and trainings and course material that we go through. And then the coaching sessions help us take that course material and that structure and customize it to our own situation so that it's individualized. So there's some structure and a format, but then there's also some coaching that helps us make it our own. And there have been many things that she has told me to do that I have been really resistant to. Something that has always been a challenge for me is figuring out what to do with networking. There have been a couple times when I felt like I needed a very definitive answer to something, and her response was, The answer is that you need to go take these steps and see what information you get and continue to revise your understanding and get the new information. And that's what's going to help you get clarity. So what she had to shift me from doing was needing to know a definitive answer and being resistant to taking action until I had that answer. What she had to shift me into doing was being okay with not having the answer and taking some steps and then continuing to revise my strategy. So after our conversations, I sometimes felt frustrated, but at the same time, I did have a clear sense of what I was supposed to do. And there were a couple mindset things that I was still on the fence on when I would agree, okay, I'm going to go do XYZ over the next couple weeks. But she got me to buy into enough to get the micro yes for me so that I would take action. And so she didn't have to get through all of my mindset issues at once. She just needed to do a couple, and then we continued to revise that. So this specific action was, okay, if I'm not really sure what job I'm looking for, I need to go and network with some people and have some conversations with people at different companies. And then I'm going to come back in a couple weeks and see if I have some additional clarity. So what I really needed in that moment was to shift my thinking around one very specific, concrete strategy that I could do so that I could get myself to do it. What I did not need to do was completely change my thinking around everything relating to that particular goal that I had. All I needed from a coach in that moment was to get me to take an action that would move me closer to a particular goal. So obviously I gave the job search example. There are probably tons of other examples that you have in your life that might be related. So do you have something where you feel resistant to doing something that you need to be doing? Well, in this case, it could be beneficial to have someone coach you through something that you are resisting that's keeping you from meeting a particular goal. It's important to notice how you feel after you talk to that person. Do you feel uncomfortable but have some additional clarity on what you can do next? Or do you feel totally overwhelmed and defensive and have no idea what you should do? That can be a good litmus test to see if you are enlisting the right support in your life so that you can move forward towards whatever goals that you have. Thanks for listening, and whatever role you have in education, we have a podcast for you at bepodcastnetwork.com. Who among your friends and colleagues needs to hear this message today? Please share it with them right now.